Hi, stupid libtard here. Joe Biden is not funding crack pipes. Now, some of you are aware of what this is about, and you've already picked one side or another to lie about. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about, so you can listen. Every one of you that just reposts a taunt, flippant response, trolling post, whatever, saying Joe Biden is absolutely in favor of distributing crack pipes. Nobody needs any help distributing glass tubing pipes. They're all over the place. They're also legal. And they're found all over the place. Sometimes they're actually made from something other than what you would think they would come from improvised items. But let's get to the point. It is a lie being told by politicians and Fox News and conservatives. Period. It's not a discussion. It's simply lying. It's not, something else. Harm reduction, if you're not aware of it. Let's say I have a very strong addiction to something because people claim it's addictive, more addictive than cocaine, but they want to help me reduce the harm. And they want to do it in a way that doesn't keep me from using this addictive material at all. Well, you have to do that. He's killing himself. And they said, no, let's make it to where he doesn't die if that's really our concern. And if it isn't your concern, then you don't care about him. Sugar. You've all heard that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. It isn't. Nor is eating sugary breakfast food making your kids hyper. These are lies you've been told by the other addictive industry, the expensive food industry, telling you, yeah, this adult cereal or the adult candy bars we all bought because we still buy them, you know you do. The whole grain, it's a candy bar, shut up. So anyway, but no, let's say we're trying to reduce the amount of sugar I consume. There's actually rules like that. You may have all heard that. A lot of conservatives are about that. They're like, well, you're making it to where soda pop isn't available. Yeah, because we have a very large problem in the United States with people becoming obese and having problems with regulating blood sugar, and they'll have all sorts of names for it. But basically, if you take in sugar too much, it will affect your health. So we encourage companies to put out, I'm going to give an example, 0 calorie, 0 sugar content drinks that use anything other than something like sugar, so we can reduce diabetes or other related diseases. But you can't outlaw the sugar. This is a little bit like saying you can't get rid of crack pipes or crack because it's just fucking impossible. It's a Walter White-esque world we're in. And we're all knocking. I have no idea why it's that, but you got to throw in at least, say my name. But let's do this really quickly. Harm reduction is based on reducing the death rate from something that's causing death, or reducing how much it costs society, or more accurately, the healthcare system. Anybody can apply for public assistance, and if you're addicted to something, you automatically qualify in some cases for emergency help, because it's really hard to kick a habit if you're dropping dead. Well, you have to hit rock bottom. Tough love bullshit out of conservatives never applies to their own kids or themselves. You may have noticed, I have sinned. You will hear this, do as I say, not as I do, from politicians on the Republican and Democrat side. Don't trust a politician to be truthful. But the idea with harm reduction is that you give people things that make it to where there's less likelihood of death. If people are IV drug users and they're addicted, it is an addiction. By definition, it is extremely difficult to stop using drugs. It is not something you snap out of. Those of you who believe otherwise are full of shit. And I've seen people claim, I've been on the wagon for years and I snapped out of it. And we're all like, yeah, we know what'll happen to you. You have no support group. Whatever drove you over the edge the last time will do it again. And eventually you'll end up in a pine box. And about half of them do, because they lie about how tough it is. It is really hard. to stop being addicted to something. Watching my friends not be able to kick cigarette habits. So what's the harm reduction? Filters. Nicorette gum. Using vaping products. It reduces the amount of damage to the person so they have a longer lifespan. If one of the characteristics of an addiction is that it kills you, making it to where it doesn't encourage you to use it because you don't need any encouragement. It makes it to where the consequences are less horrible. Some of you don't like that and sound like a bunch of ghouls trying to kill off people who have become physiologically and mentally and emotionally and, in some cases, really seriously addicted to something. And the harm reduction is don't let them die as easy. Make them live longer. Make them able to be productive. There are people who have actual addictions to hard drugs, but they've got it down to the point that they can be productive members of society, but they end up using a hard drug every once in a while. A lot of you out there use prescription drugs from a doctor, which are more expensive because you happen to be able to afford it, and you're using a prescription drug, but you're using hard drugs. You're just doing it in such a way that it's socially tolerable. And that's the next thing. If you make it to where society is able to put up with you because you're still a productive member of society, you still have an addiction, but you're a functioning alcoholic, nobody really had a problem with that in the 50s and 40s, did they? Harm reduction to everybody else around you. You're not a drop-dead drunk during the week, just on the weekends. That kind of thing, right? So the harm reduction kits for IV drug users are needle exchange systems. You go in, take the needles, and exchange them for clean ones and don't share them so you don't spread diseases like hepatitis. This drops the epidemic of deaths or injuries or worse, communicability down because it's a public health issue. Some of the people this last couple of years you found out, and very intensely on the conservative side, don't give a shit about the death rate from a fucking pandemic. They're not going to give a shit about the death rate among IV drug users or crack smokers. And that brings us to the next stage. People who are sick from an illness, who are also addicted to a drug, have much more extreme consequences from being ill and also much more extreme consequences from using the drug when they are ill. And guess what happens when they're ill? Making themselves worse. They do more of the drug to try to escape it. Most drugs are taken as an escapism thing, to escape misery, even if they know consciously that it's making it worse. And most of you watching have done something in your life where you were miserable, and you kept doing the thing that made you miserable because it was the only thing you knew to do. Now multiply that by 100 times harder to fix when you're an addict of any kind, and you're physically killing yourself and making yourself more miserable, which escalates it. So the idea with a harm reduction kit, including a rubber or plastic mouthpiece so that you don't spread diseases from your mouth to the other pipe. So you don't pass the pipe around. You have a sanitizing mouthpiece that you keep for you, and you transfer the pipe. And if they don't have a mouthpiece, you don't have as high a likelihood of transfer of disease. Yes, that's what's in it. It is not a crack pipe. It's not a glass pipe. It's a mouthpiece, like you would have on a smoking pipe kind of design. Same purpose. If you're not aware of it, pipes were sold at one time with a sanitizing characteristic. They would have clay pipes, and you'd bust off the bit that you had in your mouth because they understood back in the 1800s, even earlier, that would transfer disease. Yes, I know you anti-maskers are going to scream loudly about facts and don't like it. And this is where I'm going after, not CNN, but Fox, conservatives, and all the rest. And also CNN for missing the point. It's not that Biden isn't selling $30 million worth of crack pipes or doing anything that would cause that to happen. It's not that it's $30 million, it's not any dollars. The funding is to go to harm reduction, to put the brakes on the addiction problem we have in this country, to lower the intensity of it and lower the effects on society. Having to bury a person every couple of days in New York gets old. Having people get sick enough that they're literally laying there miserable and you have to walk past them, and they're basically killing themselves, versus make it to where they can't kill themselves anymore, to where they're not that bad, so they're not so miserable, so they use less crack. No, that sounds like that's not a tough on drugs thing. And tough on drugs has worked really great, even though at one time the United States government secretly funded and escalated it. Oh yeah, that happened. So the harm reduction here is polar opposite to a lot of politicians' desires. Handing out free crack pipes, because they have to say crack pipe instead of it being a sanitary mouthpiece so that you can smoke. Some of you use those as well. You just call them vaping kits. Or granddad's old pipe with that really good smelling tobacco in it. No, we have to call it a crack pipe because we're politicians, and this is prima facie proof that Fox News lies to you. Anyway, it's to fund helper kits. And yes, some of the helper kits were proposed, and in some places currently are available without any funding, handing out crack pipes so that it would reduce the amount of spread of a disease. It's a drastic measure, but the other one is, I don't know if you know this, but in Portland, Oregon, people would get a hold of busted pieces of glass tubing that was used to make neon signs in the old days and heat the end of it with one of those portable torches you could buy. A lot of you have them. Melt the ends and use it as a crack pipe. The glass is used because you can heat things up in it. If they don't have that, they use metal tubing. Yes, that straw, the stainless steel one from your local Starbucks that had the bend in it, was a preferred crack pipe, even though it conducted heat too well. So people made a mouthpiece for it, so they wouldn't burn their lips, and a handle. It reduced the spread of diseases. They kind of invented their own solution. Are you against them reducing harm from this? Making it to where they're healthier, maybe even functioning drunk, crack users. You're just defending Biden. I'm explaining that if you lie about someone, I will state that you're lying. Fox News lied. Politicians are lying. Senator Marshall responds to Biden administration handing out free crack pipes. We got 2 words for America today. Crack pipes, not crack pots. Did any of us ever think of sitting with their... So anyway, and I don't even know if he's for or against. It doesn't matter. They're not crack pipes. That's not what's being done here. Biden didn't make a list. Let's hand out crack pipes. Was he told about that? Well, he's the president. He's supposed to. So if Trump approved something and didn't know it was going to have the effect of changing the gun laws, you don't think well, we don't want to hold him responsible. So let's say that the Biden was told this could lead to people being sold or handed crack pipes to reduce harm. Okay, like clean needles instead of dirty ones. Like enough needles available, and also teaching them how to put them in a package so they don't leave them in an alleyway, that it reduces the possibility of your kid accidentally getting poked through the side of the shoe by a syringe needle with who knows what on it. Harm reduction isn't just about making sure the crack user doesn't die. I would explain to people who drop their syringe needle, whether they were just taking it because they were diabetic or they were using. I didn't care. You will put the cap on and break the tip off. Or you will take them into the needle exchange so you can get clean ones. Don't give me, you're banned from the neighborhood because everyone's got a video of you saying anything other than, yes, I will do that. Basic courtesy to your fellow man. Something a lot of people ignore. Again, every politician's going to lie, I know that. And Fox is always going to lie. And the only thing you're seeing for the last day are people lying over and over and over again about it. Why? Why do they have to lie about it? Why can't they attack the project for allowing crack users to have a longer lifespan? Isn't that really what it's about? Harm reduction is about making it to where there's fewer corpses in the street and less sharps for us to step on, including your kid. By the way, if you get a needle stick in the foot, take off your shoe, squeeze the blood out through the pinhole that is made in your skin. That's the only way you're going to clean it out, because everything else has been found to be ineffective. And then make sure you retain the syringe needle and have it tested for every disease. Or make it to where it's less likely to happen by using harm reduction. Teach them how to use the needles. Oh, well, that would make us like Amsterdam, where they just where they just shoot up and some of them just go to work. just like your functional alcoholic granddad. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Do you know?